Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down one of the most fundamental topics for your BCBA exam, and honestly for your everyday practice, the 7 dimensions of applied behavior analysis. Think of this as your essential checklist for making sure you're doing good ABA. So, where did all this come from? Well, it all goes back to this simple but incredibly powerful question posed in a landmark paper way back in 1968. Their answer gave our entire field a quality control checklist that is just as relevant today as it was then. And that answer is these 7 dimensions. You can think of them as the very DNA of effective ethical behavior analysis. Mastering them isn't just about memorizing facts for the test, it's about understanding the core of what we do and why it works. All right, so here's our game plan for today. We're going to talk about what makes ABA good. We'll unpack all 7 dimensions using a really handy mnemonic. Then we'll see it all in action with a case study and wrap up with a final review to make sure it all sticks. Okay, so this covers task list item A5, which falls under Domain A. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Domain A is only about 5% of your exam, but here's the thing. These principles, they apply to 100% of your clinical decision-making. Getting this right is absolutely crucial. So, how are you going to remember all 7 of these, especially with that exam clock ticking? Don't worry, we got you. The classic mnemonic that has saved countless students is get a cab. We're going to use this as our guide, so let's hop in. Let's kick things off with the first 3 letters, G-E-T. These dimensions are all about the big picture outcomes. Is what we're doing actually working in the real world? And could someone else step in and get the same results? First up, G for generality. This is a big one. It means the skills we teach don't just exist in a vacuum. What good is teaching a child to request a toy during a session if they can't do it on the playground or at home with their sibling? Generality is about creating change that lasts and travels. Next, E for effective. And this is so important. Effective doesn't just mean we saw a change on a graph. The change has to be big enough to matter. If we reduce a problem behavior by 10%, but it's still happening 50 times a day, is that really an effective outcome? We're looking for that real-world, meaningful, socially significant improvement. And the T is for technological. Just think recipe. Your behavior plan needs to be written so clearly, so precisely that another clinician, a teacher, or a parent could pick it up and run it exactly as you intended. There should be zero guesswork. Now let's pause on the first A on our mnemonic, applied. Honestly, this one is the heart and soul of our entire field. It's our ethical compass. Being applied means we are constantly asking why. Why are we targeting this behavior? Is it going to make a real positive difference in this person's life? Is it important to them and their family? It stops us from teaching skills just because they're on a list and forces us to focus on quality of life. I mean, let me paint a picture for you. You have to pick a goal. Teach a kid to stack 10 blocks, or teach them to ask for a break when they're getting overwhelmed. Which one is truly applied? It's a no-brainer, right? One is a neat trick. The other is a life-changing communication skill that promotes independence and reduces problem behavior. That's what being applied is all about. All right, let's get back in our cab and finish the ride with CAB. These last 3 dimensions are the scientific backbone of ABA. This is what makes us behavior analysts. Conceptually systematic means we're not just making stuff up or pulling strategies out of a hat. Everything we do, every single intervention, is tied directly back to the foundational principles of our science: reinforcement, extinction, stimulus control. We know why our procedures work from a behavioral standpoint. Okay, focus up, because this slide is a classic exam trap. Technological is the how. It's the recipe. Do this, then do that. It allows for replication. Conceptually systematic is the why. It's the food science that explains why the recipe works. You absolutely need both for high-quality ABA. Next up, analytic. This is where we put on our detective hats. We have to prove, with data, that our intervention is what caused the behavior change. It wasn't a coincidence, it wasn't a fluke. We need to demonstrate experimental control, a believable, functional relation between what we did and what happened. And finally, we have behavioral. This seems obvious, but it's so critical. We target what people do. We need to be able to see it and count it. We don't target things like frustration or sadness directly, because how do you measure that reliably? We target the observable actions associated with them. This keeps our science objective. And this chart illustrates that perfectly. We move away from vague labels like aggression and get super specific with something like striking others with an open hand. That's the level of precision we need. We're not guessing, we're measuring. Okay, so we've broken down all 7 pieces of Get a Cab. Now let's see how they all snap together in a real-world scenario to create a really solid, high-quality intervention. So check this out. Teaching my turn during a game hits every single mark. It's applied because reducing fights with friends is huge. It's behavioral because we defined exactly what the child needs to say. It's analytic, our data proves our teaching worked. The plan is technological, so anyone can run it. It's conceptually systematic based on reinforcement. It's effective. I mean, a 90% drop in conflicts is amazing. And it shows generality when the child starts using it at home. Boom. That's a 7 for 7. That's what we're aiming for. Okay, let's bring it all home. Time to lock in the most important high-yield takeaways that you need to carry with you into that exam room. First things first, burn this number into your brain. 7. There are 7 dimensions. Every single intervention you design or evaluate should be passed through this 7-point filter. It's our ultimate checklist for excellence. And please, please, please study these pairs. This is where the exam will try to trick you. Know the difference between applied, is it important, and behavioral, can I measure it? Know the difference between analytic, did it work, and effective, did it work enough? And know technological, the how, versus conceptually systematic, the why. Nail these distinctions. So I'll leave you with this final thought to reflect on. Which of these 7 dimensions is your clinical superpower? The one you just naturally nail every time? And which one could use a little more time in the gym? That kind of honest self-assessment is really the key to growing from a good BCBA into a truly great one.